Welcome. Welcome to the Donald W. Reynolds Journalism Institute. And welcome to everyone at home or at the office watching our live stream at rjionline.org. My name is Randy Picht, and I'm the relatively new executive director. I came here in April after a nearly 29-year career at the Associated Press. And since then, I take every opportunity I can to say, I couldn't be happier. I came here because I knew that RJI was making a difference and was in a great position to do even more to help the news business. It didn't take me long to experience that even more part. Over the summer, the American Society of News Editors, the premier industry group for editors, decided to move its headquarters from the Washington, D.C. area to RJI. The group's incoming president said, "The collaboration will be a force for meaningful innovation in the news industry." This is a group that has been around for 90 years, and it was great to have them tell the world that they wanted to join forces with us. Then, in September, we had another big announcement. RJI's reputation for innovation and collaboration attracted a huge new technology partner. Microsoft decided to set up its first ever university lab to experiment and develop applications for its new Windows 8 software. That lab's downstairs. If you haven't seen it, I would encourage you to take a look. But I'm not the only one who's been impressed with RJI. You should listen to these folks and see what they have to say.
The Reynolds Journalism Institute is really designed to help test and try out new technologies and the application of those technologies in journalism.
Really exciting and emphasizes those themes of ideas and innovation and development and outreach. Brings the best of what we're doing from a scholarly standpoint to bear on really some of the most pressing needs of today.
RJI is the engine of growth for journalism, in that what it does to innovate in the field, to come up with new ways of connecting with readers and users, and new models for how we make money in this business are going to drive journalism.
All those things are changing the way newsrooms operate, the way journalists operate, the way journalists think about how they function in a competitive economy. Places like this that are devoted to all those things.
Working with a preeminent institution like RJI would really give us access to some of the latest in the thinking and the teaching and in the experiments which are going on in the journalism and media world.
The best way I've been able to describe RJI to friends and family who've never heard of it before is kind of an incubator for new ideas.
Doors just fling open anytime, I say that I'm from the Missouri School of Journalism, the Reynolds Journalism Institute, and then I'm a fellow here, and people just automatically open the door and are willing to listen.
I was so impressed by the organization. They came up with something that really helped us move forward.
The Reynolds Journalism Institute is a center dedicated to fundamentally figuring out how to do better journalism.
At the end of the day, if you don't keep up with it, you're going to be left behind. So it's very important.
If you're not interested in that, you're going to die. And if you don't want to die, you better get interested. And you better find a place that does it, which is what RJI is all about.
Okay, so that's our welcome to RJI. And now it's time to begin our program. But before I introduce today's first speaker, I would like to recognize and introduce a few people in the audience. First, we have Tim Wolf, president of the University of Missouri System. Dr. Ann Deaton, wife of Chancellor Brady Deaton. Dr. Richard Wallace, Chancellor Emeritus of the University of Missouri. Pam Johnson, founding executive director of the Reynolds Journalism Institute. Courtney Knobloch, program director with the Donald W. Reynolds Foundation. Okay. It's a great honor for me to introduce our first speaker. It's also becoming a bit of old hat for me. This will be the third time I've introduced Chancellor Brady Deaton in less than a year. I would say, Brady, we have to stop meeting this way. But actually, since these events are kind of fun, I'll just say, Brady, we have to keep meeting this way. Chancellor Deaton came to MU in 1989 as a professor and chair of the Agricultural Economics Department. He became Deputy Chancellor in 1997, Provost in 1998, and was named Chancellor in 2004. He's the only Chancellor in the history of MU who can say these three things. I was named by President Obama to be Chairman of the Board of International Food and Agricultural Development. I led a campaign that raised over $1 billion for MU. And I moved the Tigers out of the Big 12 and into the Southeastern Conference. Oh, and I think he's the only chancellor in our history who speaks Thai. So, Chancellor Deaton.
Randy, thank you very much for that very generous introduction. And I'll remember those three things, let me say. And thanks for welcoming us to what's truly a wonderful space here in the RJI, and also to a wonderful audience. You're really a beautiful group this morning, so we're here to celebrate. Many of us who are here in the room today, including Steve Anderson, Dean Mills, Roger Gafke, and a number of others, as I look around, were on this spot first in September the 1st of 2005 to break ground for this building. This was, at that time, was funded with the largest gift to MU, $31 million given to create the Reynolds Journalism Institute. We met again on September the 12th, 2008, in this very room to dedicate the Institute. And at that time, also introduced to the world the first class of RJI Fellows. And now here we are again with another opportunity to thank and pay tribute to Donald W. Reynolds, Bachelor of Journalism, 1927, and to the foundation that he created. Today, as Chancellor of MU, it gives me great pleasure to announce that the Donald W. Reynolds Foundation has made a gift of $30,100,000 to the university. Thank you. This gift will be used for an endowment for the Reynolds Journalism Institute so that its important work of fostering better journalism and involving the citizenry in the work of a free press is assured. This gift creates an endowment to permanently underwrite RJI media research, experimentation, and innovation in service of democracy. Powerful words, I think, at a time when we've just gone through one of the most incredible national elections in our history. The role of the journalism school in service of democracy is truly a profound challenge that they have taken on and will continue to pursue. This gift brings the Reynolds Foundation total giving to MU, you have to listen to this, total giving of the Reynolds Foundation to MU to $86,904,468. This current gift of $30,100,000 is the largest gift specifically for endowment at a public university in the state of Missouri. The Reynolds gift earlier of $31 million to create the institute is the largest single gift to MU. On behalf of MU, please allow me to express my deep gratitude to the Reynolds Foundation and to Steve Anderson and Fred W. Smith for their belief in us and in what the Reynolds Journalism Institute could become. We are very, very thankful for this opportunity. I think it's fair to say that we would not be here today in this magnificent institute were it not for a scrappy young man from Oklahoma City, Donald Worthington Reynolds. Don Reynolds set his sights on the Missouri School of Journalism and worked in a meatpacking plant to pay for his studies, and graduating then in 1927. He's a testament to the power of education to change lives. He went on to work in newspapers, served in World War II, and then came back to the newspaper business, eventually buying and selling papers and creating the Don Ray Media Group. Mr. Reynolds was an astute businessman, and I believe he would approve both of this building where we stand today and the work currently being carried out by the Reynolds Journalism Institute. This endowment gift to fund the important work that RJI is doing is a vote of confidence in MU by the Reynolds Foundation. The reputation of the world's first school of journalism, the reputation that brought Donald W. Reynolds here in the 1920s, has been solidified with this large gift. As Chancellor of the University, let me express how proud I am of the leadership that has been present throughout this process and at all these events that we have spoken of. And I'm speaking, of course, of Dean Mills, Dean of this great School of Journalism, and to the faculty, staff, and students here in the School of Journalism. Dean, I'm very proud of you. I'm proud of the partnership that you have brought to what we have tried to do to create excellence at this university. And you've been a tremendous leader in that respect. Thank you. Although the Reynolds Journalism Institute is a direct recipient of this gift, the impact, of course, goes far beyond this building. RJI is an interdisciplinary research center with faculty and students from business, computer science, engineering, and education participating in cutting-edge research projects. And, of course, the ultimate beneficiaries are citizens, and those citizens will be served by the new journalism approaches invented here at RJI. I would be remiss if I did not mention that endowment gifts are some of the greatest gifts that a university can receive. They're truly an investment in the future, and we are deeply grateful to the Reynolds Foundation for leading the way as we head into our next campaign. Healthy endowments are vital to the future of a university, and they allow us to remain competitive with our peers. These endowments provide additional support for the important work of teaching and research that great institutions provide. This Reynolds Foundation gift will allow us to share with other stakeholders this important message. The Foundation has always been a leader and a precedent setter for MU. So to Steve Anderson, Fred W. Smith, and most of all to Donald W. Reynolds, Bachelor of Journalism, 1927, we thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Chancellor Deaton. Now I'm delighted to introduce Roger Gaffke, who will be introducing our next speaker. Roger has been an instrumental part of turning the vision of the Reynolds Journalism Institute into reality. Not only did he help nurture along the idea back in 2003, he also stepped up and served as interim executive director this past year before I came. And I will forever be in his debt for the expertise, the energy, and the education in all things university that he has provided while I continue to get my feet on the ground. Roger has been a faculty member in the journalism school for 44 years and was vice chancellor for development, university, and alumni relations from 1984 to 1994. The number of projects, programs, and initiatives he has been a part of is truly astonishing. And that's just since I've been here. Roger?
As you heard the Chancellor say, the gift that we're celebrating today is the latest leadership gift from the Donald W. Reynolds Foundation. Each of those previous major gifts have set new benchmarks for private giving at MU, redefining the impact that large gifts can have on the people served by the university. In the wake of each of those previous benchmarking gifts, alumni and friends have responded with their own substantially increased giving to other parts of the university. And in this way, the impact of these Reynolds gifts has reached well beyond the specific gift designation for those gifts. Surely the impact like that will continue with today's announcement and the gift we're celebrating today. A key person in those decisions is the president of the Donald W. Reynolds Foundation, and he's with us today. He grew up in Springfield, but we missed being able to call him a Missouri Tiger when the architecture program at the University of Arkansas lured him over to Fayetteville. But over the past quarter century, we've been working to recover from that. That effort began in earnest when Mr. Smith, after pledging to build our new Alumni Center, suggested that his architect join the building committee, and thus began almost monthly campus visits in the late 80s. He lived near the airport in Fort Smith, and so he could catch an early morning flight to get to Columbia in time for our meetings. And only once in those years did he hear the sound of that early morning flight, and then suddenly realize he was still in bed. It's been a great pleasure for me to see his name engraved on the plaque at the Alumni Center as one of its creators. I also celebrated with great pleasure when the Reynolds Foundation asked him to become its president. And I've come to admire his wisdom. I recall his being on campus with his chairman, the chairman of the foundation board, Fred Smith, and as he and Mr. Smith walked around the journalism complex with Dean Mills, they were discussing the possibility of having a journalism institute here. Mr. Smith said that while Dean could put the institute any place he wanted, the possibility of having a building named for Don Reynolds right next and perhaps attached to a building named for Mr. Reynolds' mentor, Walter Williams, could be very important. And I recall our speaker saying to me, "Roger, if I were you, I would remember that." Over these past 8 years, he's continued to provide important advice as we went through the construction phase of the Institute and now have launched its programs. So it is really an honor for me to introduce a good friend, a longtime colleague, and surely now at least an honorable Missouri Tiger, the president of the Don W. Reynolds Foundation, Steve Anderson. Steve?
Thank you very much. Thank you, Roger. I wish Fred Smith had been here to hear those comments. He wouldn't have recognized who you were talking about, I don't think. Thank you also, Chancellor Deaton and Dean Mills, for your kind words and hospitality. And on behalf of the Board of Trustees of the Donald W. Reynolds Foundation, it's my privilege and honor to be here with you to help celebrate this gift. A gift which will support the pioneering efforts of the Donald W. Reynolds Institute into perpetuity. As you've heard, Mr. Reynolds was a 1927 graduate of the University of Missouri Journalism School. I've heard him say a couple of times that his business career didn't get off to a great start. Upon graduation, he worked in 3 different places and was fired from all 3 before he ever really got a hold of what he wanted to do. He finally decided that he never wanted that to happen to him again, so he moved to Texas. He borrowed money and bought part ownership in a printing company, and from there developed that, then sold it, bought a newspaper in Massachusetts, and used the proceeds from the sale of that newspaper to buy 2 small community newspapers, one in Arkansas, one in Oklahoma, and they became the start of the Don Ray Media Group. He saw opportunities where others didn't, I believe, in looking at small community newspapers. Very small markets at the time. In fact, one of his early newspapers was the Las Vegas paper. And at the time that he bought it, he debated whether to move a new press to Bartlesville, Oklahoma, or move it to Las Vegas. and chose Bartlesville, Oklahoma to receive the press rather than Las Vegas. And so sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. So I think he was both. He was very creative, investing in small markets and community newspapers, and he also entered exciting new media markets of his time, like television stations and outdoor advertising. Throughout his many business successes, Mr. Reynolds was very proud of his relationship with the University of Missouri, his alma mater. In fact, Roger and I guess probably many other people in this room, were here in 1992 when he cut the ribbon for the new Alumni Center. He was already wheelchair bound at that time, and I can remember standing in the back of the room and watching him sing Old Missouri, and I saw the tear come down his cheek, and I thought, that's really special. About a year after he cut that ribbon, he passed away, so he was near the end of his life when he made that commitment. That $9 million commitment was the largest commitment he had made, philanthropic commitment he had made during his life. But he set in place the beginnings of a foundation. He made plans for the foundation, but he gave us no direction. In 1993, when he passed away, the foundation began its work with his estate, about $850 million at that time. We have now made commitments in excess of $2 billion to programs, nonprofits, and organizations since that time. And so I think we have invested his money well in various organizations. You've already heard that Roger and Dean Mills came to see us in 2003 with the idea to develop this Journalism Institute. The Reynolds Journalism Institute would be an effort to build a world-class center for research and pioneering ways to improve journalism. And for nearly the last 10 years, they have done exactly that. You've also heard that this is an endowment gift. That's a very unusual thing for our foundation. In fact, it's by far the largest endowment gift we've ever made, and one of the very few endowment gifts that we've made. When you make an endowment gift, it's always a concern whether or not the program really merits the long-term funding. And what we saw early on is that the very nature of the Reynolds Journalism Institute is to pioneer new ways of doing journalism and new ways of designing the business of journalism. It's for that reason that we know the RJI will continue, because its mission is to change. We fully expect that one of these days, smartphones and blogs will sound as dated as typesetting does for us today. In fact, smartphones and blogs weren't even thought too much about when we made that grant in 2003. So who knows in the next 10 years what will happen. We do know for sure that the RJI will continue to be relevant because its mission is not to focus on any particular medium, but to research the change and to be ahead of the change. And no matter what that change is, whether it's 2 years from now, 20 years from now, or even 100 years from now, they'll be there. I want to especially thank the Chancellor this morning for the university's support of the School of Journalism and RJI. The university's commitment has been critical to the RJI's success and important to our foundation trustees as well. Certainly, if the university is so willing to support a project, it must have potential for viability and academic accomplishment. And finally, I want to say our Board of Trustees is grateful for the opportunity to make a grant, a gift, that so appropriately honors the legacy of Donald W. Reynolds, honoring both his alma mater and his own pioneering career accomplishments. Thank you very much.
Our final speaker, I'm very glad to say, is my boss. He's been Dean of the School of Journalism since 1989, and I would like to say he's seen just about everything, but I know he would take issue with that and say something like, "Want to bet?" He's someone who has celebrated the successes of the many, many Mizzou journalists working at all levels in the news business today, and who's very much responsible for the facilities, the equipment, the curriculum here at the School of Journalism that ensures a steady stream of the many, many more to come. There are numerous achievements at the J School that can be traced to the impact of Dean's work, but at the top of his list surely is this institute. So you should know that for Dean Mills, this day has been a decade in the making. It began with the luncheon meeting in Las Vegas in February 2003 with Steve Anderson, in which he outlined a vision for the institute. It has continued through the submission of a proposal in 2004, through the difficulties encountered in renovating the old law barn as RJI's home, with his full-time service as an RJI staff member during a sabbatical from his responsibilities as dean to ensure that the Institute's programs got off to a strong start, and to his constant challenge to all of us to recognize both the obligation and the opportunity the financial support from the Reynolds Foundation provides to fulfill our mission, to strengthen democracy through better journalism. That's what it's been about for Dean and what it will continue to be about going forward. It's my great pleasure to introduce Dean Mills.
Thank you, Randy, and thanks to all of you for showing up today to help us celebrate this great event. A transformational gift or series of gifts do not arrive overnight, nor do they come as a result of the work of one or two individuals. My task this morning, and it's a very happy task, is to thank some of the many people who made this day possible. In fact, as Roger Gafke says, the story of this gift began really in the 1920s, when dedicated faculty at the School of Journalism nurtured the talents and the ambitions of young Don Reynolds. 8 decades later, passionate and dedicated faculty provided the rich intellectual base on which we could build a new institute devoted to better journalism in the service of democracy. So, to the faculty and staff of the Missouri School of Journalism, past and present, thank you. One person was at the center of every major gift given to Missouri by the Reynolds Foundation, from the gift that built the Reynolds Alumni Center to the 2 gifts that built and provided annual funding for the Reynolds Journalism Institute, and the one today that guarantees permanent funding for the Institute. And that person is Roger Gafke. Thank you, Roger. The school's own Director of Advancement, Colin Kilpatrick, provided the good ideas and the effective staff work he has for all the development activities of the school. Thank you, Colin. The friends and family of Ed Lambert, of C.E. and Betty Palmer, and of Dale Spencer have provided endowment funds to provide permanent funding for RJI events and research projects. Thanks to all of you. Dozens of media and technology companies and nonprofit organizations have provided more than $1 million a year in additional funds to support RJI projects. Thanks to all of you. At the Reynolds Foundation, smart and conscientious staff members helped us through the years of creating and nurturing RJI. Thank you, Steve Anderson, Courtney Knobloch, Karina Meyer, and all the others at the Foundation who made the process both exciting and smooth. Bill Winter, a foundation consultant who helped us plan and execute plans for RJI, was a creative and always helpful friend. Thank you, Bill Winter. I know you're getting tired and I'd say stop it, but I like the sound of it, so just keep it up. It takes strong and effective support to thread a large gift through the processes of a university. We had many colleagues beyond the school who made that easy, or almost easy. Chancellor Emeritus Richard Wallace was an early supporter of both the school and the Institute. Thank you, Richard. Thank you, Brady Deaton and Provost Brian Foster. Thank you, Tim Wolf. Thank you, Nikki Krawitz, also at the University System. And thank you, Tom Hiles and Linda Lote. Pam Johnson, our founding executive director, was a fountain of good ideas, good contacts, and boundless optimism as she put together a staff and helped oversee the construction of these splendid facilities. Thank you, Pam. Randy Pick took the baton from Pam on the run and hasn't stopped running since. He has the benefit of working with a smart and talented staff who have taken RJI from zero to the world's top research center for journalism in a little over 4 years. Thank you, Becky Acton, Jeffrey Beeson, Brad Best, Stephen Bach, Roger Fiedler, Ken Fleming, Justin Giles, Lamar Henderson, Sarah Henderson, Elizabeth Hayden, Kelly Jackson, Olga Kyle, Mike McKean, Travis McMillan, Jennifer Nelson, Renee Rao, Rick Shaw, Brian Steffens, Reuben Stern, and Esther Thorson. But of course, we would not be here today had Fred W. Smith and the trustees of the Reynolds Foundation not understood and supported our dream. The Reynolds Foundation has given many very generous gifts to this university, and we are grateful for all of them. But this gift of endowment, ensures that a university has the resources to pursue a powerful idea in perpetuity in the service of generations of students and scholars and citizens. That is what this latest gift means. The powerful idea behind the Reynolds Journalism Institute is that excellent journalism is the nerve center of democracy. It is the idea that the First Amendment was written not for the benefit of journalists, but for the welfare of citizens. With this gift, the Reynolds Foundation places enormous trust in the Missouri School of Journalism and the University of Missouri. It reminds me of one of my favorite remarks made by Reinhold Niebuhr, a theologian and philosopher born and reared in Wright City, Missouri, a few miles down I-70. Niebuhr once said, "Nothing worth doing is completed in our lifetime. Therefore, we must be saved by hope." We are very grateful that the Reynolds Foundation trustees and the foundation president, Fred W. Smith, have placed their hope in us, a hope that I believe will be realized over the course of many lifetimes. For the University of Missouri to be entrusted with such hope is a great honor, but it is also a binding obligation. This recalls another favorite remark, this one from Alfred North Whitehead. He said, "The task of a university is the creation of the future, so far as rational thought and civilized modes of appreciation can affect the issue." We at the University of Missouri pledge to work our best to fulfill that obligation. Thank you all for joining us this morning.
Well, and I'd like to thank everyone for joining us today here in the Palmer Room and online at the RJI website. I have one more piece of business to attend to before we finish up. A long time ago, back in 1918, before the University of Missouri had any buildings dedicated to one discipline, two men got together for breakfast. One of them was Walter Williams, who had founded the journalism school 10 years earlier and was its very first dean. He was eating pancakes. The other man was J School alum Ward Neff. As Dean Williams poured maple syrup on his pancakes, Neff took the opportunity to deliver his really big news. He wanted to give the school the necessary funds to build a building devoted to journalism. The gift at the time would be the largest gift ever given to the university. Williams was so stunned, legend has it, that he continued to pour his maple syrup until it generously overflowed his plate and spilled onto the table. So, today, to commemorate today's gift from the Reynolds Foundation, which now stands as the largest endowment gift in the history of the university, I brought some RJI maple syrup. In the absence of pancakes, Dean volunteered to pour it on my head. But instead, I thought I would just present this bottle to Steve for him to take back to the Reynolds Foundation headquarters.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much to our speakers, our guests, and everyone else who joined us today. We're going to have our speakers make their way out to the quad to do a few broadcast interviews, but then we'll come back to have any conversations if you want to hang around. And finally, we also have some maple syrup candy for you to take on your way out. So thank you very much.